Yo everybody, what's going on? This is Keegan from Kman Reviews. If you enjoyed this review, make sure you hit that like and the subscribe button, and if you have any opinions at all that you would like to share, make sure to leave them down in the comment section. Electric Light Orchestra, Out of the Blue. Electric Light Orchestra, or ELO, are an English rock band birthed in 1970, led by singer, songwriter, multi-instrumentalist Jeff Lynne. The band dominated the airwaves around the world from around the mid-70s to early mid-80s, releasing several top 10 singles and albums until the band broke up and eventually reformed in 2014 as Jeff Lynne's ELO, which is still going on today as I'm recording this. But we're not talking about that version, we're going way back to the 1977 classic double album, Out of the Blue. This was a landmark release for the band, and one of their most commercially successful, selling well over 10 million copies, and widely being considered one of the greatest double albums of all time. So how well do these claims stand up 44 years later? Let's find out as I go through this album, track by track. No doubt this will be a long review, so strap in. We'll start with the singles, with there only being one pre-release. I know there were others, but post-release does not count for my rules. Thankfully, that one single is the opener, Turn to Stone. Really isn't the kind of opener I was expecting to this album. It's shimmery, it's shiny, it's got some nice disco touches to it, and the driving beat is enjoyable. But the vocals, the harmonizing, and especially the overall performance given just kind of feels a bit like white drywall. Basic vanilla, nothing really spectacular you'd expect an album with such high acclaim as this one to have. Lyrically, it's just about how when the significant other is gone, he turns to stone, cold, emotionless. It's not a bad song, I just kind of expected a little bit more punch to an opener. And now for the rest of the tracks. It's Over opens up with this pretty great string arrangement, which then transforms into this warm, light, sugary pop song. Sounds a lot like something Queen would have done, minus all the orchestral elements. In fact, Jeff Lynne kind of sounds a bit like a beta Freddie Mercury to an extent. Standing on its own, the song doesn't offer all that much, kind of continues at this mid to slow tempo, with the instrumentation again shining at the forefront. Lyrically, it deals with this breakup, using sunshine and the lack of as a metaphor for their relationship. It's alright, perfectly acceptable, but again, nothing crazy. Sweet Talkin' Woman picks things up a little bit, and I see why this was a post-release single, because this is a track that can actually stand on its own. Yet again, opening up with a beautiful string section, building up into this peppy, perky cut with this encapsulating warmth surrounding every element. Even Jeff Lynne sounds a bit more happy as he records this song. This one also brings in an ELO staple, the vocoder, and I've always enjoyed it in their songs. Lyrically, it's about meeting this woman who's really good at sweet-talking and trying to find them again. This is a fun track, worth a listen. Across the Border has a very similar effect on me that Sweet Talkin' Woman does, but instead of having a comforting, wholesome pop feeling, this is much more rock-oriented, but a lot of the same tropes persist to this track. It's got a good upbeat tempo, lively vocal performance, and melodies. The violin opener was extremely satisfying, and I love the armada of trumpets that come in. The grandiosity of the track that ensues is so gripping. Lyrically, it's about constantly working, building up this page just to catch the train to meet your partner across the border. I adore this track. Fantastic song. Night in the City stands right in the middle for me. I'm not crazy about it like the previous tracks, but I'm also not against hearing it in particular. Everything here just kind of feels a bit more down, relaxed, kind of laid back. Mainly Jeff Lynne's performance. His vocals start to drone a little bit, he sounds a bit uninterested, and that kind of weighs the song down as a result. The instrumental is nice. I like the string work in the background, almost feels a little bit dramatic with the tonal shift mentioned earlier. And lyrically, it seems a bit about this wild city life this guy goes to in search of this woman, but he never ends up finding her. It's fine, but it's not one here I'd return to often. Starlight is a slow track here, but this one really stands out in multiple ways, with the main one being the title of the track is extremely accurate. The song feels spacious, ethereal, and so soothing, like you're caught in this hypnotic, transcendental vibe floating around in space, the stars twinkling and shimmering, lighting up the vast emptiness. There's also these synths coming in that sound like an alien transmission, that high-pitched frequency you've probably heard in several space-themed movies. Lyrically, the song deals with a long-distance relationship, but honestly, this is a track that needs to be experienced. Give this a listen. Jungle is another track that lives up to the title, first opening up with some futuristic synths, which evolve into some wild feral ambience with monkeys, plus some rain falling sounding like a rainforest. Then the instrumental comes in, and this is such a jam. The guitar work here just feels like so much more than all the previous tracks, and the drums have a nice hearty stomp to them. But there are still some common tropes here, like the strings, the quirky background instruments along with some clap beats. Jeff's vocals also seem to have gotten a lot deeper here too for the most part, as he sings about being lost in the jungle, but gathering a horde of animals to keep him company and sing. It's a real Disney tale if I've ever heard one. Tune's fun and bouncy, I love it. Believe Me Now, which is a brief interlude that has some very sweeping emotional weight to it, with the pairing of the string arpeggios and vocoded vocals. It's alright, certainly serves as a minor break that adds a little bit of tension going forward, but I wouldn't say it's all that necessary to enjoy the record. Steppin' Out starts like a warm, piano-driven, and string-assisted ballad. Definitely sounds nostalgic now. And my god does Jeff Lynne really sound like Elton John here, particularly on the verses. It almost sounds like Your Song 2.0. The instrumental kicks in during the choruses, which sounds a lot more traditional, natural, authentic, and it's just a nice warm tune with these lyrics about wanting to step into the world, make a difference, a change, truly accomplish something. It's a good track. I quite like it. Now we get to the infamous side 3 of this record, Concerto for a Rainy Day, a 4-track suite that is based on weather changes and how such changes can affect your mood. Starting with Standin in the Rain, which, fitting to the title, features a bunch of rain pouring and thunderclaps as backing ambience, paired with the rest of the instrumentation with some nice synth work as well. Lyrically, though, it makes a lot of sense, mainly being about desperation, which really does work with the whole topic of the track. You're just standing in the rain, desperate for an escape. The mood of the dark overcast and the rain pouring on you. You want to be happy and in the sun, but it just seems endless. Great track. Big Wheels is easily the lowest point in terms of mood on the suite, and probably the whole record, mainly led by the spare piano and strings and Jeff Lynne's somber, melancholic vocals, as he sings about the never-ending struggle in someone's life bordering on suicidal thoughts. But it slowly grows to where this person starts to have a little bit of hope and stay strong as he waits for a happy ending. The optimistic nature coming out of this instrumental, especially near the latter moments, is so infectious. And even at the 5 minutes of this track, it's concise and it works really well. Another great song. Summer and Lightning is a much-needed dopamine booster after the 2 fairly negative tracks. The drums pack much more weight, Jeff sounds way more lively on that chorus, and yet the thunder still rolls in the background. But it's not a depressing thunderstorm anymore. The rain has stopped, and a bright, sunny day is imminent. Just need to hold on for a little bit longer. I really like how hopeful the track all feels with Jeff's vocals, plus the full instrumental switch about 3/4 of the way through, turning into this clap beat and upbeat strings. It's gorgeous. Fantastic song. Certainly a standout. And Concerto closes with the band's signature hit, Mr. Blue Sky, one of the most aggressively optimistic and happy songs I've ever heard. And it's a perfect closer to the suite. The clouds have parted and the sun reveals itself, shining down on our protagonist, and his mood has changed appropriately. It's a beautiful day. This is what we've been waiting for. And then he turns around to ask the sun why it took so long to arrive. Why couldn't this have been sooner? Come on, this track is a classic. So many playful elements here, bells, chimes, a nice guitar solo, and a beautiful coda that closes off the suite in grand yet very fitting fashion. Absolutely killer. You need this song in your life. Sweet as the Night just kind of feels a little bit bland here in comparison to the suite we just went through. It's a lot more of a standard rock power ballad-esque style with only some minor string work here. It's a little bit generic, but it's not a bad track. It kind of continues this sunny, warm feeling that Mr. Blue Sky left off on, with the bright, shimmering synths, but as a standalone track, it doesn't really have all that much to flaunt. Lyrically, it's about how fun and lively the nighttime is, but as soon as day hits, it gets back to the same boring routine. It's alright, it just doesn't stand out that much. The Whale is the second and final instrumental piece of this record, and it's such a long one too. A full 5 minutes of some gradually building ambience and trippy effects, which slowly climaxes with a nice synth solo and steady drum beat. I'll skip this one more often than not. It is not essential at all. Birmingham Blues would normally be a pretty basic song here, but this one really caught me in a multitude of ways. Number 1, the pure rock and symphonic energy coming out of it. The drums got a good slap to it, and the string assistance is beautiful. Number 2, that guitar solo. Just the solo. It's so energetic and fun, even if it doesn't last too terribly long. And number 3, Jeff sounds happy singing this track, which only amps the track up in terms of mood tenfold as he sings about constantly being on the move, selling shows, but in the end he misses home and dreams about heading back. This is a fun song. I quite enjoy it. And finally, the closer Wild West Hero is a piano-led cut to close off the record, and it's not too bad. Though what really makes this track stand out is the unique instrumental additions, especially around the 1 minute and 30-second mark, where we get the sporadic keyboard delivering sweeping crescendos, plus a pretty great guitar solo to boot. And then it kind of just keeps on going and building ever so slightly with louder drums, vocals, and guitar work, until it just fizzles out with the lyrical realization that he won't ever be a Wild West hero like he imagines. Not a bad closer. Now, this overall section at the end here might be a little bit different. My reviewing format has consistently been track-by-track reviews, picking apart each song and analyzing it to see what works, what stands out, and what's potentially a bit mediocre. However, I feel like reviewing this album that way is doing it a great disservice, and while I know that's what I pretty much just did, I just want to add this little tidbit onto the end here if anyone's even still watching this far, and hey, thank you if you still are. Anywho, I feel like this album isn't best listened to in an attentive way. Some of the tracks here don't stand on their own very well as individuals, but they work leagues better as one cohesive listen. I found the most enjoyment of this record to be when it was in the background. I was out and about and had this album playing, and I don't think I've ever had an album be such a mood raiser than this one was. If you do listen to this album, and I highly recommend you do, play it while you're doing something, anything. Going out, household chores, any sort of thing like that. This album is a soundtrack to a happy day, and I really hope it has the same effect on you as it did me. While I normally would give this a more negative rating, that experience alone that I had bumped this album up to an easy 9 out of 10. Phenomenal record. Well guys, hope you enjoyed that review. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.